Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and we're going to discuss a topic that, while we're applying it to the training world today, this same topic could be applied to any other goal or endeavor in life. It doesn't have to be weight training or performance or physique related. You could apply it to anything else, and that's why I'm going to make it pretty vague and not single anything out. But people always make this claim of, well, so and so achieved this goal, so who cares? I mean, that's probably a great way to do it if they actually reached the goal to get there. Now, I want to point out here that I'm going to actually defend both sides of this argument so that people can see that there are two legitimate perspectives here with this. Because the rational person, the reasonable person, the scientifically minded is going to say that's not true, that's absurd. And I generally agree with that. However, there are definitely situations to where doing something inefficiently, maybe even slowly, maybe even at a snail's pace, and with extra work and hours and years spent achieving a goal that could have been done a lot sooner, might actually still be to a person's advantage to do it that way. They might actually have legitimate reasons for being inefficient. So I don't want people to think that I'm going to just pick on one side of it, because I'm going to address the other in here also. I'm going to paraphrase Eric Helms here a little bit, but I remember a few years back he made an online analogy of some of this stuff, and it might have been about post-workout nutrition or training or something else. I forget which it actually was, but he said that's kind of like someone saying that their method of hopping on their left foot and spinning in 6 circles while hopping on their left foot and then going to their right foot and hopping 3 times before they open a door and walk through it is proof that their methods are effective because they made it through the door. When in reality, it could have been just as simple as they just had to reach up and turn the doorknob and walk through. They didn't have to do all these silly jumps and twists and count 6 times to the left and 3 times to the right and whatever. That sometimes a lot of the things people are doing has been made into this complex, mystical thing to where you have to just do extra work and overly complicate things in order to get the desired result, and sometimes it just isn't necessary to do so. But that is generally done. You see that in online fitness a lot, and I'm sure you see it in other endeavors as well. But they say, well, he made it through the door, he got the result, so I'm going to do it his way. And then you'll have 20,000 people hopping on their left foot 6 times and on their right foot 3 times while they spin in semicircles around before they go through a door. Then you'll see them start arguing eventually about whether they should reverse it. Would it be even better if they hopped around on the right foot 6 times and the left foot 3 times before they go through that door? And it's really funny when you think about it, because really all of them had to do was just go through the door. And people like to make things more difficult than they need to be. And then they'll scream about it being, well, it's hard work and dedication. That's what it's all about, because I had to do all that hopping around to open that door, and look how effectively I got through that door when I finally got there. And it's not always the case. Now, people would argue that, well, why are you criticizing that? They at least reached the goal. Tons of people aren't even making it through that door. And that is a valid point. That's a valid point indeed. And when you have something that is maybe a difficult to achieve goal that not many people are doing, and you don't have a big body of knowledge to draw from, and you have nothing but anecdote, you have no way to analyze what they're doing, and it's not as common sense, meaning a person can rationally look at something like the door analogy and say, well, yeah, obviously that hopping around didn't affect his ability to go through the door. That's so silly. But when it comes to training or nutrition or things like that, it isn't always that simple. You can't always just look at it that easily and logically. It's more complex sometimes. We don't have all the information. And so you're kind of forced to try these things out. But what happens eventually, when enough people have done it, we can start finding patterns and say, yeah, actually it looks like most people, if they hop on the right foot first, actually get through that door quicker and easier instead of the left foot, because we have hundreds or thousands of people who've gone through that door, and we can actually look at it and time it and see how long it took, and we can actually look at the data, and we can apply that to training. We can apply it to other things. And so therefore we can analyze it if enough people have reached a goal. But when they haven't, and that's oftentimes the case in something like this is oftentimes very niche stuff, we don't have that information to draw from. And so we do actually have to look at what these people are doing for information. The problem is, of course, when we're dealing with something like training or nutrition, there actually is a large enough body of information to draw from. But the problem is that you have so many gurus and public figures with their own agenda trying to sell programs and sell other things that they need it to be more complex. And they don't want people to know the actual information there. It's in their best interest to not even discuss that and to just do their demonstrations and pretend the other stuff doesn't exist, or to just call them, a bunch of E equals MC squared motherfuckers and do it this way. It's just hard ass work. And so you do see a lot of that, and that makes it more difficult for people who aren't aware that there is a large body of information there to actually make informed decisions. So people will use these inefficient, slow methods. I mean, perfect example, body part split for training, for gaining muscle mass, and you're not on large amounts of drugs. You're simply going to gain muscle slower doing that. Is it going to be dramatically slower? Maybe not. Dramatically is a relative term. Maybe you only make 70% of the gains you could have made and put in, 30% more gym time every week to get there. But you'll still probably get there. It's not very efficient, which brings us to the other point. Some people aren't concerned with efficiency. Maybe some people have a time investment component. Maybe they have a risk analysis. Maybe they have a psychological enjoyment component of it. And to those people, maybe it isn't necessary to reach that goal as fast as possible. For a lot of people who are not training to compete in something at a very competitive or a professional level to make their living off of it, it isn't necessary to always find the most efficient things. We can talk all day long about the fact that high frequency training for drug-free lifters, full body programs will always produce faster results in muscle mass. Will it be fast enough to justify doing it if you hate doing it and you like a more split training more? No, probably not, because you've got an enjoyment factor. If someone enjoys having a chest day and a leg day and an arm day and all of that, does it really matter if a full body program is going to give them 5% or 10% more gains per month or per year? Not really. That's not very much difference. And if they enjoy doing the other more, it's more about the journey for them. They're still making progress. They're still having fun doing it. They're more likely to continue doing it if they actually enjoy it more. So you can't rule out the fact that something that might be a little slower and a little less efficient might be more enjoyable to a person. And therefore, it's about the journey to them. It's about enjoying what they do as they reach their goal. And it's hard to argue against that kind of logic. And I can't. I would have to say they've got a valid point if that's their choice to do it that way. And we get to the other one, and this is one that I raise all the time. And a lot of people understand this, particularly guys my age. A lot of us don't want to do high volume training. Tons of people don't. So what if high volume training has been shown to produce 5.6% more muscle gains? And actually, I believe that is the number with the newest data, up to 5.6% more muscle gains per month and per year from doing high volume training. But a lot of us don't want to be in the gym that much. A lot of people don't. People have lives. People have jobs. They have a journey. They don't want to spend 2 hours working out. They want to be in and out of the gym in 45 minutes 3 times a week and still get only 90 or 95% of the muscle mass they could have gained. For those people, there's a time investment, there's a fatigue investment. That yes, the high volume training will put more muscle on you. Absolutely will, no doubt about it. It will be a little more muscle, but it's not time efficient for those people. It's about their journey and their life and doing what they enjoy with their time while still striving towards that goal and making progress. And then on top of that, we have not just an enjoyment factor so that people enjoy the journey. We have not just a time investment factor. How much effort and time do they have to put in for every unit of results they get? There is also the risk component. There's a risk component because there are certain things that people could do to gain muscle faster that they are not willing to take the risk of. Maybe that risk is anabolic drugs, or maybe it's certain anabolic drugs. Maybe some people are willing to use a little bit, but they're not willing to use a lot, and other people aren't willing to take the risk at all. And we could also argue that, well, those people aren't dedicated to making maximum results, because if a person is dedicated to making maximum results, they're going to do everything to get there as quick as possible. They're going to do the higher frequency training. they're going to do the higher volume training, and they're going to use as many drugs as they can possibly afford financially to put into their body on top of it. And that's another factor that we could argue with this stuff. Yeah, clearly anyone who is dedicated to making maximum progress is going to do whatever it takes, or they can't claim that they're dedicated to it completely. If that means that they die for it, then they die for it. So everyone has their limits. So when it comes down to what's the most efficient and fast way to do something, well, that's not always in the best interest of the individual. There are three other things that have to be considered when you ask, hey, what's the fastest way to reach a goal? The fastest way to reach a goal may not always be the most enjoyable on the journey for a person. It may not always be a time investment that they're willing to invest per unit of progress. And then it may involve risk that they as an individual, to their health, to their freedom, to their pocketbook, that they are not willing to take. So the most effective way to reach a goal we can look at, we can understand, we can study, and we can have that out there for the people who want to do that. But we need to also consider that the majority of people towards many goals that are out there are not going to want to actually do it in the fastest way possible, because there are other trade-offs that have to be made to do that. And each person has to factor those things in for themselves. What are they actually willing to do? And there's not a right or wrong answer there. That comes down to your own individual quality of life, what you want and what you're willing to put in. That's not a right or wrong answer. There's not a moral answer. It has nothing to do with how good of a person you are. It's simply a cost to benefit analysis for you as an individual. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.